Listen, as many of you know, 2 weeks ago, we started a sermon series that we called 2020 Vision. Now, the reason I wanted to do this series is because in order for us to move forward with all of the plans that we have in the next decade, because here's what we've learned. We've learned that the first 10 years of Velocity has been so great. We've been so blessed, so much fun, but we can't rely on what we did in the past. That was the first 10 years. We don't win today's games with yesterday's home runs, and in order for us as a congregation to move forward with all of the plans that we really feel God has for us, it is absolutely imperative for all of us to understand who we are as a congregation and why we do the things we do. That's why we took the first 2 weeks of this series to remind you that the number one reason we exist as a congregation is to help men, women, and children of all ages understand the truth about God's love, and then we want to teach them how to follow after Jesus with all of their heart. But this morning, we're actually going to do something a little bit different. This morning, I'm going to take several minutes, and I want to tell you how we are doing as a congregation. And before we go any further, I want you to know right up front that nothing is wrong. We don't have some major controversy looming over our head that could cause all kinds of drama. We don't have problems at Velocity, so please don't be my first one. Okay, 10 years, like no drama, and if you become a problem to me, I'll stop praying for you. I'm not joking. No, I'm just kidding. I am. I would. But listen, we just have so many great things happen that I want to take a few minutes to tell you this morning, this is what's really happening. This is a behind-the-scenes look at what's really going on. So let me start by giving you a brief overview. At the beginning of every month, Zach Clark hands me 3 pieces of paper that look like this. This is what we call the Velocity dashboard. And all of us know what a dashboard is. Because whenever you get in your car and start the ignition, what happens? You have all kinds of indicators that kind of pop up on your dashboard, right? You have a fuel gauge, tells you how much gas is in the tank. You have an oil pressure light. You have a speedometer and a tachometer. And each one of those instruments are important because they tell you how your car is functioning. Well, every month, I look at 6 specific categories to determine how we are doing as a congregation. I look to see how many people gave their life to Christ. I see our overall attendance. I look at our fuel group numbers and our church's generosity. And the reason I do that is because every one of those factors represent a different area of our overall church health. Because if I see, when I get those papers, if I see that less than 5 people gave their life to Christ throughout the course of a month, I want to find out why. Like, wait a minute. We don't exist to do Sunday morning services where we sing and run kids programs. We exist to help people understand the truth. So I asked the staff, look, do we need to have some more conversations? Have we not had enough conversations? Or if I see that our fuel group numbers are less than 50% of our overall attendance, I know that we need to have more conversations about fuel groups because there are so many people who aren't getting the relational discipleship that would really help them grow in their faith. Well, last week, actually about 2 weeks ago, Zach Clark handed me the overall numbers for 2019. And when I looked at the results, I discovered that because of God's blessing, we continue to be a healthy, growing congregation. Over the past 10 years, we've experienced significant growth in every one of those areas, especially at our Sunday morning services. You see, when Vanessa and I started Velocity back in 2009, we started with a launch team of 14 people, and we would have worship services in our living room. And we did that for months. But now, on a normal Sunday, we will average somewhere between 540 and 600 people. And that's not like a rah-rah, oh my gosh, Velocity is so great. Do you know why that's so important to understand? That's important to understand because the growth of any congregation is dependent on 2 important factors. And the first factor is the blessing from God. For some reason, and I don't know why, for some reason, God continues to send people who've never heard the truth about God's love to this campus and to our Lyndhurst campus. In fact, over the past 2 years, God has blessed our efforts so much that there have been 104 people who've given their life to Christ and been baptized. And if you've been around Velocity for a while, you see so many people giving their life to Christ that it can almost become mundane. Because you'll see a video where somebody tells their story, or you'll hear about somebody who gave their life to Christ. And the weird part is all we think a lot of times is, oh, look, there's another story. There's another baptism. There's another guy. There's another girl. There's another young person. But we are so fortunate to see that much life transformation. But do you know the other reason we've grown as a congregation? It's because so many of you invite people who feel really far from God to come with you on Sunday morning. In fact, not too long ago, the Barna Research Institute did a survey where they polled 14,000 believers in the United States. And the survey found that over 80% of the people who gave their life to Christ did so because a family member or a close friend invited them to church. Now that statistic made a huge impact on me personally, because it didn't say that 80% of the people gave their life to Christ because of the pastor's amazing oratory ability. And it didn't say that 80% of those people gave their life to Christ because of the music or a video. It said that 80% of those people gave their life to Christ because somebody just invited them to a place where they could get reconnected with God. And so many of you get that. That's why you invite friends and family to come with you on Sunday morning, because you know internally this is a place where people I know, I love, and I care about really can get reconnected with God. Now, the next sermon series that we're going to be doing in the month of February is one that I want to encourage everybody to invite somebody to be a part of. And here's why. In the beginning of the month of February, in 2 weeks, we're actually going to start a new sermon series that we called Animal Planet. And what we're going to do is we're going to spend 5 weeks learning with our Kid City people about how God used animals to show us how much He loved us. I mean, we have this really cool safari theme. We're going to have giveaways and live animals like, Billy, don't touch the tiger. You know, like, you're going to bite you, right? I'm just kidding. Won't be a tiger. But listen, if you know somebody who has children and they don't go to church anywhere, this is the perfect series for you to invite them to be a part of. Now, the second update I want to give you is I want you to know that we are doing okay financially. And as everyone knows, we don't talk about money all the time here. In fact, the only thing I ever say about resources is this. When you think about how good God has been to you, you be as generous to Him as He has been to you. Because every time you give, we take those resources and we use them to help people understand the truth. And we use them to help people in need. Now, our budget for this campus in 2019 was $165,000. That number includes our office space, worship space, Kid City program, special events, Smash, Summer in the Sun, coffee, donuts, and all of the outreach programs that we run here at this campus. Our actual offering last year was $159,784.65. And as you can see, we had a shortfall of about $5,000. But we did not go over budget in any way, because I do not believe in debt of any kind. We will only spend the resources that we have. We operate on what's known as a 1090 budget. What that means is every week we take 10% of what comes in through our Sunday morning offering and we give that money away in benevolence and to missions around the world. then we as a church will operate on the remaining 90%. Now, before I go on, I want to take a second and explain how missions and benevolence actually work here. When we give money away in benevolence, what that means is that we are giving away financial resources to help local people who are in need. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. About 3 weeks ago, I got a phone call from a teenage girl who was living in Cleveland Heights. When she called the office, she's like, "Hey, are you the pastor?" I said, "Well, I'm one of them." I said, "Can I help you?" She goes, "Yeah. I was wondering if you could help me with this. You see, I haven't been able to get clean for a while because my family doesn't have any soap. And I was wondering if you would be willing to buy me some soap." Now, we get about 10 or 15 phone calls every week from all kinds of people asking us for some type of assistance. But this one was very unusual. So I said, "Sure, honey." I said, I would be interested in doing that, but would you mind if I ask you your name?" She said, "Yeah, my name's Shauna." I said, "Okay, Shauna." I said, "Honey, I would be super happy to help you with this, but can I ask you a few questions?" She said, "Sure." I said, "Okay." I said, you said you needed some soap, but I'm wondering, how long has it been since you've actually had something to eat?" And she said, "Oh, well, I eat almost every day." I said, "You eat every day or you eat almost every day?" She said, "Well, I eat almost every day." I said, "Okay." I said, "Shauna, how many people stay with you? How many people live in your house?" She goes, "Well, I live with my mom, my 2 sisters, and my little brother." I said, "Okay." I said, "Do you have a way to clean your clothes if you wanted to? Like, do you have a washing machine in your house?" She said, "No." I said, "Okay, do you live near a laundromat where you could wash your clothes if you wanted to?" She goes, "Yeah, there's one right down the street." I said, "Okay." I said, "It's your house where you stay. Do you have a refrigerator, a stove, or a microwave?" She said, "Well, we don't have a refrigerator, but we do have a stove." I said, "Okay, is that stove gas or electric?" She goes, "I don't know." I said, "Okay, when you turn it on, does the surface get really hot or does a blue flame come out that cooks your food?" She goes, "Oh, it's a blue flame." I said, "Okay, be honest with me. If I asked you to walk down to your kitchen right now and turn that on, would that blue flame come on? Is the gas on in your house?" And she said, "Yeah, it is." I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, Shauna, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to buy you some food that doesn't need refrigerated. Then I'm going to buy you some soap, shampoo, detergent, and some feminine products for you and for your sisters. Then I'm going to stop by the laundromat that's near your house and I'm going to get you some prepaid laundry cards so you can wash your clothes if you want to. Then me and a staff member are going to put all the stuff in my car and we're going to drive it to your house." About an hour or so later, staff member and I went to the store and got everything that we thought they could possibly need for a month. Then we stopped by the laundromat that was near her house. We bought 2 $25 prepaid gift cards so that she could wash her clothes. Then we called Papa John's. We ordered 2 large pizzas. We put those in the car. We took all of this stuff to this little girl's apartment complex, knocked on her door, and when this little girl opens the door, we started handing her bags of groceries and soap and detergent and toothpaste and gift cards and pizza. And do you know why we do that? We do things like that because of what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 25. Look at what Jesus said. He said, "Then the king will say to those on his right, 'Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me.' Then the righteous will answer him, 'Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you? or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you as a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go visit you? And the king will reply, I tell you the truth. Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did that for me. The biggest reason we give resources away is because the Bible is very clear that part of your responsibility and part of mine is to be very generous to the people who are in need. Because there's a thought that kind of permeates our mind and our culture that thinks, well, they probably ended up there because of whatever reason. But that is not the reality. Our responsibility is to be very, very generous to people who are in legitimate need. Now, you need to know, I don't say yes to every request. When people call and tell me that they need help with their cable TV or cell phone bill, I immediately say no. We don't co-sign for loans, make mortgage payments, or anything related to those items. And here's why. Jesus speaks of 4 very specific areas that he wants you and I to be involved. He expects us to help people who are hungry, people who need clothes, people who are sick, and people who are in need of medical attention. Those are the only areas that we provide assistance. And that portion of our generosity comes out of benevolence. Now, what we do with the rest of that 10% is we give that away to missions around the world. And one of the biggest organizations that we've been able to help over the past several years is one that you've heard me talk about, which is Remember New. And as most of you know, Remember New is an organization that rescues little girls from being sold into sex slavery. We have supported this organization since we started Velocity, and our support, folks, I have seen this firsthand, front row. Our support pulls these little girls out of an environment where they would be sold to adult men for pennies on the dollar. And it puts them in an environment where they are safe, where they eat every day, where there is no fear of them being sold. And these little girls grow up understanding how much God really loves them. And the reason that happens is because some church in Cleveland, Ohio, sends all kinds of money to people that they don't even know and says, you know what we do? We don't know you. We may not know your name, but what we do think is this. You need to be safe because we don't think that any little girl should ever have to go through what some of you have been through. In fact, in March, we're actually getting ready to start the biggest initiative that we have ever started in the history of Velocity Church. In fact, this is so big that I don't get stressed out. This initiative is so big that it legitimately stresses me out. Like, how are we going to do it? I don't know. I don't know. Is it going to work? I don't know if it's going to work. But this is so big that when I tell you what we're going to do, I swear your mind's going to go, I'm like, I don't know if that's going to work. I don't know either. It's going to be so big, though. It's going to be so much fun. It's going to be huge. It's going to push us all to the edge. And some of you are wondering, what is it? I can't tell you yet. I know. I know. It's okay. A lot of people hate me. It's fine, right? But listen, I am so excited to tell you what's going to happen, but I can't tell you yet. But in the first week of March, I promise I will tell you. And when you hear this, you're going to be like, that is the most outlandish thing, but I think we can do it. What I can tell you is in May of this year, we're taking 18 people from both of our campuses on another mission trip to Uganda, Africa. To the Remember New homes, we're going to be doing medical checkups, running a VBS, so please be praying that that mission trip goes off amazing. Now, the third update I want to give you is back at our 10-year anniversary, I told you that I have been praying about starting a third campus of Velocity in Willoughby. And my hope was to start this third campus on September 20th, 2020. But we've had some issues that have come up that are going to delay the start of this new campus for at least a year. And let me tell you why. It's because whenever you start a church or whenever you start a campus of a church, one of the biggest issues you have is finding the right location to have Sunday morning services. And for those of you who don't know, when we started this campus in 2016, we had a ton of problems finding the right location. You see, when we started this campus, our first location was actually at a movie theater. We met there for several months. We did all of our preview services there. But for some reason, there was a lot of tension with the management, right? And I couldn't figure out why, because these managers were like, don't move that, and you got to be out, and pick this. And just like, it was really, really tense. And they were like yelling at some of the staff people. And I'm like, this is not healthy. So I thought, it's going to be best for us to get out of here, because my thought with every relationship is look, we can date, but we don't have to get married. Like we don't have to go any further. And I didn't want to get married. So we decided to change locations. We looked around for months, and we decided to change locations to here, to Memorial. And this school has been amazing to us. The custodians are wonderful, the staff is amazing, and we love it here. But out of all of the locations I've been to in Willoughby, we have hit one roadblock after another because there are so many things that can go wrong. You can find a location that doesn't have enough parking. There's not enough room for children's ministries. There can be management problems, issues with the lease agreement, and any one of those could be a fatal error on my part. And I don't want to make that kind of mistake. And here's why. This is the part that nobody knows. Whenever we started the Lyndhurst campus back in 2008, and when we started this campus in 2016, the part that people don't know is whenever we start a campus, I have to get in my car and drive around the country for weeks. And I go from church, to businessman, and what I do is I have to sit down and have conversations with these people about what I'm getting ready to do. And I tell them, look, I need you to support us financially for a minimum of 2 years until I get this new campus off the ground. And I have to raise a minimum of $250,000 from outside resources to make sure that the new campus we start is self-sustaining for the first 2 years. And the reason I have to do that is because you can't start an organization of any kind that immediately runs in the red. You have to give that new congregation time to grow and develop. Let me give you a real life example. When we started this campus in 2016, the average attendance that first year was 124 people. The offering for our first calendar year in 2016 was $15,060.46. And as you can see, in no way did that cover the expenses. We immediately ran in the red. But in that first year, we had 10 people who gave their life to Christ. Well, then in 2017, this campus grew from 124 to 170 people. The offering for 2017 was $66,867.21, which again, we still ran in the red. But the outside resources covered that. That's why I drive around and spend hours every week raising all kinds of resources until a campus is self-sustaining. The great part was, in 2017, we had 17 people who gave their life to Christ. And I knew that's what the first 2 years would look like. Because whenever you start something new, you're trying to reach out to people who may not even believe there is a God, or may have been so hurt by a church that they think, I'm never going back. So why would they ever even consider supporting something they don't even buy into? That doesn't even make sense. So what we do is I raise outside resources to create an environment where people can come with no fear and no judgment. They can just learn the truth for themselves. And over the course of time, we get to see God's blessing when more and more people give their life to Christ. Then eventually, that campus will become self-sustaining. So I'm not shocked that we have to delay this process for at least a year. Vanessa and I wanted to start our Lyndhurst campus in 2008, but because of all kinds of problems, we couldn't start until 2009. I wanted to start this campus in 2015, then I was in a bad accident, we had all kinds of problems and lease and management and switch places, so we couldn't start until 2016. I would much rather God reveal every possible pitfall that we could hit now than I would get 10 yards down the field and realize that we've made a monumental mistake. Now, the final update I want to give you is really important, and I want everybody to look at me. Folks, we have been so blessed as a church. I say that so often that some people think, oh yeah, that's great, we're blessed. We have been so blessed that I want to encourage you from my heart to keep doing the right thing. Don't do something that embarrasses the name of Christ or your family. If you're a husband in the room, be faithful to your wife. If you're a wife in the room, be faithful to your husband. If you're a teenager in the room, don't make decisions as a teenager that you're going to carry with you into your adult life and will haunt you the rest of your life. Keep being faithful. And don't just keep being faithful. I'm going to ask all of you to continue to pray for God's blessing for this congregation and for your own life. And I say that knowing that half of the people in this room probably don't even pray on a daily basis. And I don't say that as a shot or a bash. Look, this isn't something I want from you. This is something I want for you. The reason I encourage you to spend time in prayer is because I really want God to lead you to the place that you've always wanted to be. I want him to speak into your heart, into your life so clear that you know, like, I know what God wants me to do. I get it. I feel it. I see it. I know that this is where he's put me, and he's put me here at this moment and this time for this reason. So you keep praying even when you don't feel like it. And you keep inviting people who feel far from God to come with you on Sunday morning because he is using your invitations to do things that I have personally never seen in my adult life. Because statistically speaking, in the past 2 years, there have been 104 people who have given their life to Christ and been baptized between this campus and our Lyndhurst campus, which means over the course of 2 years, we have seen somebody give their life to Christ every single week for 2 years. I have never seen anything like that. God is using your invitations to make a huge difference in people's life. So you keep inviting. You keep being generous. And for those of you who serve here, I want to encourage you, look, keep serving each other and keep serving the kingdom. And here's why. I have so many people who say to me, like, Scott, I really want God to use me in a powerful way. I really want, I want to do something so big. I want to do something so unheard of. Let me tell you something. If you are a part of a setup team here, if you're a part of a teardown team here, if you serve communion, if you are a part of the greeting team, if you work in Kids City, if you play a part of the worship team, you need to know God is using you in ways that you could never imagine. Because 90% of the stories that I hear, when people sit down with me to give their life to Christ, you know what they say? Like, Scott, these people who greeted me at the door, they treated me like I was family. Like they hugged me and they loved me. It was like I could feel that they really cared. And then I took my kids to Kids City, and these workers just love my family, and they know their name, and they recognize when they're not there. And I see all these people who do all the stuff just to make me feel welcome. And when I hear these stories, I wish I could go, like, I just want to, like, see? Like, do you see? Do you see what you are doing to make a difference in people's life? Because if you serve here, I want to encourage you, keep doing it. Your efforts here are making the biggest difference. And for those of you who are kind of like, man, I'd like, look, we can have a lot of conversations about steps you can take, but what I want to encourage you is this. Keep being faithful. God is doing things through all of you that I have personally never seen. And I am super excited to see what's going to happen over the next year and year and a half. Let me pray for us. God, first off, thank you for this morning. Thank you for the people who chose to be here. And Lord, as I just kind of think about the avenues that we have gone through to start this campus and the way that you've blessed it, I am so thankful for what we've been able to do. And I'm not saying like we as a staff, I mean we as a collective group of people. Because what we've been able to do through your grace is we've been able to help a whole bunch of people get to the place that they always wanted to be. So God, thank you first off for the way that you blessed us. And God, my hope is this. My hope is that we will continue to be faithful. That when we look at the commitments we made to you, when we look at the things that we kind of say, you know what, I've always wanted to do this, I've always wanted to be here. When we think about those things that you really will, through our prayer time and our time alone with you, that you'll take us to a place that we've always wanted to be. God, we love you so much. Thanks for the people who chose to be here this morning. It's in Jesus' name. Amen.